Good morning. Let me ask you something. Do you have a big goal, something that you want to accomplish, but you know it's going to take a lot of time? It's a dream about doing something you've never done before, like writing a book or starting a business or getting a degree or something like that. Anything that you know is going to take some time to do. You're excited about it. You know it's a part of God's plan for your life, but you just don't know how to make it happen. You're overwhelmed and you're kind of frustrated because you know you want to do this thing, but you just don't know how to do it. If that's you, then today's episode is for you because I'm going to share how you can align your daily choices with your long-term goals to make that thing happen that you want to happen. So good morning again and welcome to Morning Coffee with Joyce. I'm Joyce Abrils of HerRichLife.com and I host this show to give you the tools you need to be the purpose-aligned woman that God created you to be. So let's dive in with this whole idea of daily choices and long-term goals. And I wanted to start by sharing with you one of my long-term goals. And when I say long-term goals, I'm talking anywhere from 6 months to a year, 2 years, even 5 years. But anything that you can't do within, let's say, 30 days. And so I have a goal of having my own planner. As I've shared with you all before, I use 5 in my business and my personal life. And I'm thinking, well, I love planners, and I know that if I build a planner around my whole idea of being a purposefully aligned woman, then I think I'll be onto something that I can create that's going to help women not only discover their purpose and live their purpose, but also help them stay on track with everything that they do daily so that they can reach those long-term goals with their daily choices. And so I want to have planners in women's hands by January of 2024. So that gives me a little while from now until next year to make that happen. One of my mentors has outlined the process for me. And one thing I saw when I looked at the timeline is that it's going to require that I work on this project every day. As a matter of fact, this month is the month that I've gotten started. If I want a winter release, I have to start working on it now. And so it's going to take that long to get everything done. I can't wait until the last minute. Not that I ever do, but I can't, especially when I'm talking about something that's going to take months to complete. So chances are you have a long-term goal or two, and something that's going to take you several months or even a year or more to finish. Well, I'm going to share 5 things that you can do to help you reach those long-term goals. But before we do that, let's talk about some keys when it comes to some biblical keys when it comes to setting your goals. Because your goals don't matter unless they are in alignment with God's word and they're in alignment with his will for your life. And so here are 8 biblical keys that you can measure your goal against. Number 1, faith. We serve a big God who can accomplish the impossible. So if there are people who are telling you that your goal is unrealistic or that the thing that you want to do is unrealistic or the thing that you want to have is unrealistic, that's what, or, you might even be the person who's thinking that. I want you to remember this. There is nothing that God can't do. And especially when you're aligned with him, his purpose for your life, and you're aligned with his will for your life, you are unstoppable. That doesn't mean that there might not be, pitfalls or challenges, roadblocks along the way, but that thing will come to pass. We can always believe that God is with us and that he always has us on his minds because he's trustworthy and he's faithful. And when it comes to things that he's called us to do, if you're faithful to him, trust me, he will be faithful to you, and those things will come to pass. Number 2, humility. We never want to be in a position of demanding that things work out or that our goals are accomplished exactly as we say. God's will always takes precedence over ours. And so we need to be sure our attitude is one of humility before we go before a holy God and our mighty God. And so we have to, even though it may be our goal, it may be our dream, it may be our hope, we still have to align that with God. Good morning, Georgette. Glad to see you here. Number 3, commitment. We need to commit ourselves to doing the work. We have to take responsibility for doing our part. God is always going to do his part, but we need to give him something to bless. I had to do a lecture this past Wednesday at Bible study, and It was on Joshua chapter 6, 7, and 8. And if you remember, chapter 6 is the battle or fall of Jericho. And I talked about, God told the Israelites to march around the wall 6 times and on the 7th time to give a loud shout. But that wasn't what brought the walls down. God brought the walls down. But the people did what he told them to do. And so that is how he was able to bless them, because their obedience brought them the victory. And so we have to be that way with our goals. We have to be able to be committed to them and do the plan or follow the plan that God has laid out for us. Okay, number 4, diligence. God's goals often require hard work. We need to be consistent. We need to be committed. We need to be diligent, even when it's hard. And I actually would say, especially when it's hard, we have to be diligent, because those are the times we might feel like giving up. And if God has told us to do something, that's definitely not the time to give up. So be diligent about your goals. And number 5, perseverance. We will have setbacks and disappointments. I don't care what we do in life, whether it's goal setting, whether it's daydreaming, whether it's anything else. There are times that we may have challenges and times that we may have setbacks, but that's okay, because the way to your goals, or to make your goals happen or see them accomplished, is not always a straight line. Sometimes there are curves and sometimes we cross over, but that's all right. It's okay to have those. We just have to persevere and do that thing that we believe God's calling us to do. And the thing about roadblocks and setbacks is that because we know that they're going to happen, if we're prepared for them, then we know how to face them when they come, and they won't stop us. So sometimes we might have to change our course or change our strategy, but that doesn't mean that you give up on the goal. Number 6, alignment with God's word and will. We have to ask ourselves, are we in alignment with God's word and his character? Our desires, our goals, our hopes and dreams should always align with God's word and always align with his will for our life. And so when we look at our goals, we have to ask ourselves, is this something that's going to please God? Is this going to delight him? Is this going to, be something that brings joy to the heart of the Lord? Because the truth is, if we're doing something and it's not God's will, or doesn't align with his will for our lives, what's the point of even trying to do it? Because the bottom line is, as children of God, whatever we do, we want him to be happy with what we do and how we do it, and most of all, why we're doing it. Number 7, planning. Have we done the appropriate homework before starting our task? Have we counted the cost? Have we written these things down somewhere and we made a plan to make them happen? When you have a long-term goal, anything that's going to, take you more than, let's say, 6 months, you have to have a plan. Otherwise, you get lost in the day-to-day things that you do. Because with, something that's going to happen or you want to happen a year from now, you can't just sort of willy-nilly fly by the seat of your pants. You have to plan. And in a little bit, I'm going to talk about a way of planning to make sure that your goals are reached. And number 8, motivation. We need to ask the hard questions. What is our goal and why do we want it? Do we have selfish motives, or are we operating with the heart of Jesus? Is this for praise for God, or is it for praise of ourselves? And so we have to look at our motivation when we're doing this. So as you think about your long-term goals, I want you to think about each of these 8 biblical keys as you make your goals and work towards them. And I realize that goal setting can be overwhelming for some people. I happen not to be one of those people. I love goal setting and I love planning. But here are 4 things that will help you get out of the overwhelm and into action on achieving those things that you really want to do. The first thing is that you have to use a method that works for you. Okay. My method may not work for you. But there are so many others out there. You just have to find one that is key to your success. But I'm going to share with you my method of how I go about setting goals. And if you've tried setting SMART goals, SMART is an acronym that starts for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And if you've used that and it works for you, that's great. then use that. But if it hasn't worked for you, and sometimes it doesn't, because SMART has been those kinds of that framework, if you will, has been prepared for a lot of people who are, let's say, in the business world. And so it may not work as well for your personal life. And so what I did was put together something that works with your personal life as well as your professional life. And I call it heart-centered goal setting. And here's a quick overview of the 5 steps. And again, HEART, just like SMART is an acronym, HEART is an acronym. And H is God is first. All right, He is first, but God is the He. When you're a woman of faith, before setting any goal or making any plan, you have to ask God for His guidance and direction. Because no matter how good or noble we might think a goal is, if it's not in alignment with God's will for our lives, it can lead to stress, it could lead to frustration and even heartache. So too often we set our goals in a vacuum. We look at the goals we had last year or a year before, or we look at other people's goals and we say, this is something that I need to do. This sounds like a good goal. And we go ahead and make that a part of our plan. But that's a quick way to end up in the 85% of people who never reach their goals, because we need to spend time in prayer and reflection to make sure that this is something that the Lord wants us to do and that it's something He really wants us to accomplish in our life. So the first thing is to remember that He is first. And we need to go to God and make sure that we have that strong foundation for our goal setting before we even move on to the next step, which is embrace your relationships. Who are the people who matter most to you? When you go into goal setting, it's very important that you keep your God, your husband, your significant other, your family, your friends, your church family, keep them at top of mind while you're setting these goals. And don't forget yourself. It's important not to leave you out of the equation. Sometimes we get so excited about working on something, working on a goal or working on a dream or project, that we get so immersed in it that it just sort of takes on a life of itself. Well, we want to set goals that cultivate more meaningful and fulfilling relationships with the people who are in our lives. Because for a lot of us, the reason we want to accomplish that big goal or do that thing that we believe God is calling us to do is for our loved ones. And so it's really important that we keep them top of mind as we're setting these goals, and that our relationships reflect, that our goals reflect these relationships and their importance to us. So keep them a high priority. Number three, letter A, align your work. Remember, we're spelling heart, Heart. A, align your work. Now, chances are that you spend a lot of time working, whether that's for yourself, whether that's for a boss at in corporate, whether that's for your church, but there's work that you have to do. And so it's important when you're setting your goals that you keep that in mind. Good morning, Artina. Glad to see you. So when you're setting career goals or church goals, if that's where you work, or your business goals, number one, ask yourself, are they in line with what God's calling you to do? That's first of all. Second, don't conflict with the relationships. Okay, you don't want to set goals. Remember, the E is embrace your relationships. They come before work. So make sure that when you're setting these work goals, that they don't conflict with your relationships. And number three, they help you to do work that lights you up. Okay. Now, I'm not getting into talking about purpose-aligned work. That's going to come later. Next month, I believe it is. We're going to talk about that. But for right now, it's important not to let work take over your life in such a way that it's going to conflict with God's will for your life. So be sure that you can check off those 3 things when you're setting goals that encompass your work, because it's very important that you remember to keep God first and also your family next. R, reassess quarterly. Now, I talk with women all the time who set their goals at the beginning of the year, like in January or in December, and they never look at them again. But goal setting is never a one-time thing. That's why I suggest that you take a look at your goals every 90 days. And I do this for 2 reasons. First of all, if you've accomplished something that you set out to do in 90 days, that is great. You might want to go ahead and replace that with something new. Or second, you could decide after you've worked on this for 30 days or maybe into 60 days, you know what? This is not important to me after all, or this is not in alignment with what I believe God wants me to be doing. And you can take that off your list. But if you don't look at your goals, until the next December or the next January, then you're going to have a problem. And I don't want you to do that. And so when you reassess every 90 days, you can keep track of your progress, and it allows you to change course if you need to. So remember, God first, your relationships next, your work, and then reassess those goals every 90 days, quarterly. And then there's T in heart. Take daily action. That means every day you should do something to help you reach your goals. And sometimes that can even be as small a step as reviewing your goals so that you know what to do the next day. But the point is that you have to take steps, and they don't have to be big steps, because remember, you're giving yourself 90 days to do this. And so you can take small steps that over time are going to create big steps. And so if you're consistent about it, you're going to reach your goals, because you're going to be able to achieve them in that 90-day period. And so you think about it. There are 4 quarters in each year. And so if you have a long-term goal of something happening next year or the year after, if you reassess the way that you're doing your goals every 90 days, you will be able to make that thing happen that you really want to do. Because even taking those baby steps every day is going to help you have those big steps every month, every quarter, and every year. So your daily choices really do make a difference in whether it's hard to reach your goals, whether it's easy, or whether you reach them at all. And also, when you do it this way, you stay motivated. You don't run out of steam or willpower. And you can plan to do at least one thing every day. You have to do that. I know, like I shared before, one of the big goals I'm working on is the release of a planner in 2024. And so every day I have a schedule of what needs to be done, and I look at what do I need to do today. Now, I don't often do that on the weekends. I try not to work on the weekends if I can help it. But I do have to take daily action, because when you think about creating a physical product, once you've created this product, you have to get it to a printer. They have to send you a sample of what it's going to look like. You look at that, you approve it, get it back to them, and then they go through the process of printing 500, 1,000, 5,000, whatever it is you want to happen. Well, that takes time. And so I have to work on this every day. Now, if maybe you're planning a trip, or you're starting a business or a ministry or nonprofit, or maybe you're writing a book, or maybe you're going after your master's or your doctorate, it's important to do something every day to further along that dream of yours. And so this is what it means when I say make sure that your goals are heart-centered, and that you're using heart-centered methods of making sure that they come to pass. And if you really want to reach your goal, there is a second part too. Excuse me. My throat is going dry for some reason. If you really want to reach your goals, there's a second part to the goal-centered heart-setting process. Excuse me, y'all. Studies show that the biggest reason people don't reach their goals is that they don't attach a big enough why to it. And when I say why, I'm talking about, why is it that you want this goal? Why is it important to you? And the reason why you need to set up, the reason why you need to have a big why is that, remember those roadblocks and setbacks I talked about earlier? When you reach those, if your why is not big enough, it will often cause you to get discouraged and to stop moving forward with that goal. And you might give up on it. But if you know that your why is big enough, for instance, with this planner that I want to produce, my why is that I want to help women who do not know what their purpose is, And I want to help those who know what it is and don't know how to live it. I want to give them a tool that's going to help them discover it and or live it. And so that's a big why. I mean, that's the whole purpose around my coaching business. I am the purpose aligned woman, and I want women to live lives that are in alignment with their purpose. And so this is a big reason for me. This is a big goal, a big part of my why as to why I want this done. Yes, it would be nice to have a product that I can sell and make income off of. And that is important when you're in business. But the heart of the matter is, even if I didn't sell it, it would still be important to me because it is a part of who I am and what I stand for. And so when discouragement or setbacks come, I have to look at why I'm doing this in the first place. And I suggest that you do the same thing when you're in that position. And here's another example that's an even more personal one that I wanted to share with you. Not too long ago, a group of friends and I met up for dinner, and one of our friends had lost an enormous amount of weight. She'd lost like 50 pounds since the last time I'd seen her. And we were curious as to, what was the secret? How did you do this? And she said, well, she had lost weight before and had gained it all back and sometimes more, but then she got a really good reason to lose weight. She was pre-diabetic. And her doctor told her that if she didn't do something like losing some weight, she was going to be in full-blown diabetes. And she did not want that, because she knew about the problems that diabetes costs, like losing your eyesight, getting on dialysis, and, all these other things that she just said, no, that was not going to be her way of life. And so she found the inspiration. She found her big why as to, why she needed to lose this weight. And she didn't like exercise anymore. She didn't like eating healthily any better either, but she knew that she needed to do this, and so she stuck with it. And so whatever goal you set, whatever dream that you have, why do you have it? Why is it important? How is it going to delight the heart of God? How is it going to help those people you were placed here on this earth to help? Because remember, the way I define purpose, that is purpose for a Christian. First of all, glorifying God, and secondly, helping other people. So how is this how is this goal going to do that? And weight loss and being healthy may not be the thing that you struggle with, and that's okay, because the principles are still the same. You can use the same principle for each goal, attach a powerful why to it. And I will assure you that when you do that, your likelihood of actually reaching that goal is going to increase. And when you attach a big why to any heart-centered goal, you can achieve that goal. And then, unlike the 85% of people who don't reach their goals, you'll be in the 15%. So that was the first thing. So choose a method that works for you. Number 2 is to talk about your goals. Often we don't talk about our goals enough. And I think one of the reasons is that we believe that people might criticize us. Who do you think you are? You think you can do that? Especially when it comes to family and friends. Sometimes they can be real supportive, and then other times they can be somewhat less supportive. And so we worry about that. Or, the other thing is sometimes that we doubt ourselves, and maybe we think, I'm not going to be able to do this. And if I tell somebody I'm doing it, then it's just going to be a failure when it doesn't happen. But when you take a look at your goals and you start sharing them with people, and I don't mean just anybody, I mean people who are your cheerleaders, people who do support you, it serves a purpose, because when you put it out there, it's a good way to, first of all, alert people that you're about something, that you're doing something that's really important. But secondly, it brings accountability as well, because I know that there are people in my life, if I'm sharing that I'm going to do something, my brother's going to ask me, how's it going? My business accountability partner is going to ask me, my coach is going to ask me. So there are people who are going to keep me on track, and you need to do that. So talking about your goals can do that. You need that accountability, and you will want to work harder to achieve the things that you've shared when you share it with somebody. And so it's really important like that. And so I've made this public declaration to you about my planner, and I want you to do the same. Find someone that you can share your goal with, who is going to support you, who's going to hold you accountable, and who's going to help you along the way. And so I know that for myself, once I make a public declaration about something, I'm going to do it. It's going to happen, because first of all, I don't want to let anybody down that I've shared the information with, but also because I know that I have people who are praying for me, who are holding me accountable, and they want me to do the things that I said I would do. And here's a scripture for you today. Psalm 37, 4-5 says, I'm trusting that he will give me the desires, that he will give you the desires of your heart and help you reach your goal. And so look up Psalm 37, 4-5 and make that one of your affirmations as you work on your goal. Okay, the third thing you can do is consider working backwards. Luke 14:28 says this, but don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there's enough money to finish it? You know, in other words, when you're setting a goal, look at the big picture first, and then the steps that it's going to take you to get there. That's important. You know, you need to know what resources are you going to need. You know, there's going to be time, energy, money, and people that are going to help you achieve your goal. And so it's important to look at where you're going to pull those resources from. And one strategy to do that is to work backwards. So take a look at your goal and then map out the steps it would take to achieve them from completion to beginning. And when you use heart-centered goal setting, as I stated before, remember I talked about the whole 90-day process. A great way of doing this is to start 90 days from now and write down what it is you want to have completed at that time. At the end of 90 days, what do you want to have completed? And then start working backwards from that way. You know, what do you want in that third month, then the second month, then the first month, and that'll get you lined up for your quarter. And so it makes things a little less overwhelming, and it's also easier to get started when you do it that way, and it can really help you to bring your goals to reality. Number 4, look for motivation. You know, part of maintaining your progress towards reaching any goal is staying motivated. And you can look for daily motivation anywhere. You know, you can find it in scriptures and affirmations. I know I have a calendar. I have several calendars. As someone with 5 planners, don't be surprised I have several calendars. But one of them is a little inspirational calendar that every day has, you know, just a sentence about something that can motivate me. For instance, today says, keep your head held high. Okay. That's just one thing it says. And so find those things that are going to help you stay motivated. You know, the other thing is when you're going through your prayer time, whether you do that in the morning or you do that at night, you know, pray about your goals and focus on them, journal them, write them down, meditate on them, and make plans for them that's going to keep them top of mind, because that's what we're talking about. If you're going to do something daily, you have to have your goals top of mind. I know there's one mentor that I listen to, and she writes down all of her, well, she doesn't have a whole lot. So she may have 10 goals, let's say, for the year. And she might be working on, let's say, 3 for the first quarter. And she will write those 3 goals down every day in her journal. Every day she writes those same 3 goals. And I'm talking pen to paper, y'all. You know that I believe when you put pen to paper, it opens up your mind. It empties your mind of those things that you want to get done, the good, and it also takes out the frustrations, the bad. And so write down your goals, and that will help them to stay top of mind. Create a desktop background, or create a wallpaper on your phone and put your goals there. You know, if you use vision boards and your goals are on your vision board, make your vision board your wallpaper on your cell phone. That way, every time you open your phone, you're going to see those goals. You have to stay motivated. And so it's really important to do those things. Thank you, Artina. I'm glad that it's helping. So remember, when you do your 90-day check-in, that you have something down every day and that you're keeping those goals top of mind every single day. And then you can adjust when you need to. But the thing about staying motivated is if you remember your why and why you're doing this, it is a lot easier to stay motivated than just picking a goal because it sounds good or somebody else is doing it or somebody said, you know what, you should work on this goal. This is something that would be good for you. Don't do that. Hebrews 10:35-36 says this. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. So that's a promise for each of us. No matter how big or small, I want you to celebrate those milestones, even before you reach the completion of your goal. And let me tell you this, if you do not have anyone in your life who is a cheerleader, who wants to see that you succeed, or have a mentor or someone like that in your life, then please reach out to me. I will be more than happy to cheer you on, more than happy to help hold you accountable. Just send me a DM, tell me what you're up to, and trust me, I'll put it on my calendar to be sure to keep up with you, to make sure that you're keeping steady along the way. And no, this doesn't cost anything. You're part of my community, and I just thank you for that. And so this is just a gift that I'm giving to you. But remember, it's important that you use a method that's going to work for you, that you talk about it, that you're excited, that you stay focused and motivated on making these goals happen. So the things you do every day really do matter when it comes to having progress or making progress on your long-term goals, because every step, every small step, every daily step is what's going to help you get there. Now, you get to choose what your daily steps are, but it's important that you choose daily steps, because that's how you reach long-term goals. And unfortunately, sometimes I think people get overwhelmed, like I say, when they think about working on something that's not going to happen until 6 months from now or a year from now. But it's really important to start focusing on this right now. And even if your long-term goal is a year or 2 years or 3 years from now, you can still use this 90-day process to help you get there. And you can still start backwards with where you want to be, let's say December 2024, if you want to have a goal or reach a goal that's going to take that long. It's really important that you start there, because it's easy to forget about your goals. It's easy to become overwhelmed by just how big it is, especially when it's something you've never done before. But when you use the strategies that I've shared, I do believe that you could do the impossible, because if you're working on something and you know that this is something that God has called you to do, and it's aligned with his will and aligned with his purpose for your life, you can't fail. You just can't, unless you don't do some of the things or all of the things that I've shared with you today. And this episode is one of those, let me write this down. Let me write these steps down. So if you haven't done that while we're watching it, please go back and watch it again. It's not long. So it looks like it's about 30 minutes. So go back and get all of the steps from the beginning, and make this weekend, tomorrow, Sunday, sit down and make your plan about your long-term goal and how you're going to make sure that it happens. And just remember that your daily choices make a big difference. 2 Chronicles 15:7 says, reminds us to be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded. And it will be rewarded if you just stay on track, stay on task. So set those long-term goals and don't give up on them. Don't give up on you. Because if your heart is crying out to do something, then this is something that I know the Lord has called you to do. And what a disappointment, not only to him, but to yourself and to those other people in your life or in the world who would be affected by it. So please don't do that. Don't give up. Go ahead, set those goals and make them happen. Thank you for joining me today live, and those of you on the replay. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week for the next episode in our how-to series at the same place, same time, and have a great weekend, and bye for now. Thank you, Artina.